Are you looking for new books to read? Do you like finding a new special author? Are you tired of the same old books from the same old authors? Well then, welcome to Discovered Wordsmiths, a podcast where you can hear from fantastic new authors. Join Stephen Schneider as he finds and talks to authors you may not know, but authors that have worked hard to write great new books. Hear about their book and why you should check it out. So sit back and listen to today's Discovered Wordsmith.
Enter,
That help out.
And then for the second half, we were going to talk about persevering and taking 15 years to get your book out. Touch a little bit on editing and marketing. Correct?
Absolutely, yeah. My first book took 15 years to get out. Thankfully, it's a lot quicker this time around. But those 15 years were challenging, and I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah. Okay.
There we go.
All right. Very, very cool. Okay. So the only thing I'll remind at the end of this, after I stop the recording, we need to give it a couple minutes to upload files.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, unless you have any other questions, we'll just get rolling.
Let's jump on in. Stephen, looking forward to it.
Sounds good. Okay. Great. Well, Dave, welcome to the podcast. It's good to talk to you.
Thanks, Stephen. Glad you could have me on today. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I'm glad we've got some time. It's a great afternoon to be talking. So, Dave, for everybody listening, before we start talking about your book, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you live, what you like to do.
Thanks so much. I am a school teacher from Southern California. I live in the LA area. I teach high school government and economics, the fun stuff, I like to call it. On the side, I do the writing, as we talked about. We're going to talk about today here, books and working on screenplays for fun, time with family, photography on the side there. I noticed that you are a fan of Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark, some of the stuff I love as well. So some of the classics, I'd like to call them. But I just like to enjoy a bit of this and that and kind of observe what I see out there and write it down and tell stories.
Nice, nice. So you teach government and some history. Did you use those skills writing your book, the stuff you've learned, and incorporate it?
I did. The character in my book, the protagonist, is a high school teacher who wins a lottery and decides to run for president. And it was kind of based on a
So it's your
conversation.
personal fantasy book.
No, my personal nightmare book. Many
Oh,
people say
okay.
it's a fantasy, but no, I assure you, knowing enough about the process, I would not want to do that myself. But it was a
Uh,
fun little speculation piece.
yeah, and I bet not just knowing about the process, but trying to get the kids to understand the process probably is like, yeah, I'm done with that.
No, and I try to tell them that it's a force for good. And when they see the news or hear the talking heads, they don't quite believe me. And that's a conversation. We
Yeah.
try to get them to that spot, but that's not an easy one. So it was kind of fun to delve into that realm and kind of merge those two parts of my life together, the fiction side and also the reality. But let me assure you, I'm good where I am. I'm happy to visit the White House as a visitor, but not as an occupant. I'm good.
Right. Right. And a visitor that's allowed to go in.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So
I'll be.
you mentioned you like Star Wars and that. Um, do you use any of that in your teaching, like for government and some of the stuff that happened in the movies?
Sometimes I will make reference to the idea of government and power and control. It's always fun to see what kind of touchstone the students have with the series. I prefer more of the classic ones. They think the newer ones are better. I try to say that I pretend they don't exist, and we have a fun little chat and conversation. But I do tend to play some of the soundtrack music while they're taking tests or doing some studying, and some of them will appreciate a John Williams piece or some other composers as well. So it's fun to connect that way.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I like to write a lot to soundtracks, especially
Yes,
John Williams.
so do I. My latest book I wrote to the Poldark soundtrack TV show out of England. Sometimes Downton Abbey. My next book, I might try some John Williams. I enjoy him for fun, but I might use that in the background as my processing music and to kind of inspire me a bit. So I really
Yeah,
do enjoy what John has to do.
Yeah, I know a lot of people find like playlists that are the type of vibe they want to get for some scene or whatever. So that's always fun.
It is.
Okay, so and let me ask, where in Southern California do you live?
I live in
Approximately.
a little city called San Dimas. It is about
Okay.
30 miles from LA. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I work at the
Yeah.
high school. Yes, we
Cool.
know. Well aware of that there. Where Los Angeles and Orange counties kind of bump up against each other, that's where I live. I don't see celebrities on a daily basis like everybody thinks I do. I'm just
Right.
a normal guy who goes to Trader Joe's. But I live 30 miles from the entertainment capital of the world, or at least of North America. And
Right.
so that is a bit of fun. It's fun to make sure that Southern California culture, when I reference it in the book, is accurate. It's the 5 freeway, it's the 210, as opposed to
Right. Right.
interstate this or highway that. People go to In and Out and have hamburgers. So I try to keep that vibe local. And if I go to other places, I contact with other people that live there and say, hey, I don't want to sound like I'm an outsider who's never been to your city. What things do I need to talk about? How do I need to frame things in the writing to make sure people that live there locally go, oh, he's done some research?
Right. Yeah, that's cool because I you always find people that say, "Oh, I've never heard of this guy. I've never read this book, but it's set in my hometown, so I got to check it out."
I
And
do have a
then,
bit of that. People that say, oh, it's Southern California set. I want to read those books. And I say, sure, if that's
yeah,
it, love to have you.
yeah. Well, I lived for a while in Escondido, a little bit
Oh,
further south,
yes.
so a nice area. If you like weather that doesn't change, San
Yes.
Diego's the place to go.
We were just there this past week on a little bit of a vacation break in. I leave 70-degree weather and I'm driving back to the Inland Empire, in essence, where I live. It's about 10 to 20 degrees hotter. And I have to remind myself family, job, everything I know is up here. Otherwise, I would have just stayed in the San Diego area. It's nice and
Yeah,
wonderful weather.
yeah, it always is. So, why did you want to start writing? What got you into writing?
Well, I'm like most writers. They have that story of when they were in middle school or sometime there, they wrote a story and they told a story, and everybody and they fell in love with that idea. Here, I wrote a story. It was terrible. It was badly done, uh, but I kind of shelved that. I did some journalism in high school, college, in my beginning of my career, but I had this notion that I should write something a little bit longer than the short stories I did in my college classes. So in 1998, I get this brilliant idea. I'm going to write a novel. And I'll just take the summer, I'll write it. I spend 5 weeks. I write what is the perfect novel, of course, but it's not. And this is where, and I've talked to you a little bit before about this off air, where I spent 15 years trying to get that perfect novel in some shape ready to publish. So there's a lot of ambition that goes into writing, a lot of motivation that says, I'm going to jump into it and I'm going to be the guy who's going to go write that book and make it wonderful and everybody's going to buy it. Then there's the reality. And that reality sets in and says, well, you got to make it good enough for people to pick up and read and spend 10, $15 on it or so. And so
Right.
that becomes a lengthy process. And that is kind of what made me into a writer, not the beginning part where I wrote the story, but where I crafted it, honed it, polished it, and got it ready for publication.
Yeah, I get that. I've gotten that feeling also. People quite often uh, think, "Oh, I wrote this and I'm done. I got it." No, it's really a lot of work after that for most people.
And people get shocked when they say, "Oh, I've written a book." They're surprised, and I tell them think to myself, I say, I could have written down my grandmother's ice cream recipe 1,000 times. That's enough pages for a book. But I've got
Right,
to have something that's readable, and so it's reading good authors, it's writing good stuff, it's editing, it's revising, it's editing again.
right,
Sometimes the beta readers are really helpful in that process. So it's kind
right.
of getting something that's good for the market, and that takes time.
Yeah, agreed. So, tell us what your first book is called and what it's about.
Okay, excellent. I'll talk quickly about my first trilogy, which is already done, and then I'll talk about the one I just published here.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so I did self-publish a trilogy as individual books. I never realized after the end of each book I'm going to write another one. I keep telling myself it's too painful to try, but I did it. So book one is called Chasing Deception, about a religious leader who turns into a cult leader, and they investigate what's going on with him and what drives him in the Jim Jones kind of way from a kind of our childhoods, if you will. Second book involves a college campus and a scandal on a campus and how that evolves. And the third book involves a local guy who's running for a state assembly seat. So that's my first trilogy: Chasing Deception, Undue Pressure, and Running. Undue Pressure we're working on as a movie actually right now with a writing partner. But
Nice.
I said all that aside, I said, oh, I have nothing else to write. And one day my wife and I are chatting. My wife's also a writer, and we're chatting about ideas. And we're talking about this notion, said, hey, what if somebody who won the lottery did something good with it, something powerful, like run for president? And all of a sudden, fool's luck is born. And so my wife and I tend to inspire each other as writers. And that was a moment where the aha light bulb goes on, and then Fool's Luck begins to grow and it's created. And I chat with my bride a lot, and we talk about ideas. And she says, "Hey, you need to work on that and this." And so, while I do write the book, it's obviously a lot of good collaboration. And similar with her work, I like to encourage her a lot and the things she's doing too. It's a very fun partnership, and one I didn't expect when I got married, but has really blossomed as we've
Nice.
kind of developed our writing careers.
Nice. So, what is Fool's Luck? What's the basic synopsis story?
Sure. So this idea here is we have our average regular high school government teacher who thinks he knows how things are done. He wins the lottery and Powerball, and he's winning like $400 million. Boils down to about a quarter billion or so, about $250 million. Says, what is he going to do with it? Well, he's going to run for president. The problem is he doesn't bother to tell his wife before he announces it. Doesn't share it with the family. He just has this notion. It's April of the election year. And sort of we follow him along the process. Does his family come on board? Do they not? How does he get America to come on board with this guy who no one's ever heard of? He's kind of funny in the classroom, but outside of that, he's who knows him. So he gets some political experts on the board there, and he sort of runs for office. But during this time, he has a struggle spending time with his family. There's a health crisis at home he's got to deal with, and he has to split time between the campaign trail and that. And it follows him on this trajectory, on this pathway, trying to go for this job here. He also is someone who is struggling with faith. He has some values he's believed in, but kind of walked away from them. Should he have some here? And when things don't go as well, he shakes his angry fist at God, as people are wont to do. And he's kind of held in check on that. So you do have this sort of tracking of multiple storylines. And it's somewhat funny where some people say, I think the book is perfect. Others will say, I like the family stuff. The politics kind of got boring, but the family stuff was good. Or they might flip it. They love the politics, but the family stuff, I'm a writer. I put both in. And sort of I have these competing A story, B story, if you will, C story perhaps as well. And they would sort of weave together in the narrative. And whoever likes one part, it pulls them in, and hopefully they stay for the rest of it.
Nice. Okay. And it's already out. And did you traditionally publish?
I did this time. I was very fortunate this time. I've independent published previously. And this time I thought I'd try again. I queried the agents, no thank you. I queried some of the publishers, no thank you. And I go on Facebook, one of my social media groups here, and they said, hey, how about this company? I sent it to them, and they said, oh, we really like this story. And the publisher really was excited about it. He got on board with it, and he's got the team behind me. So traditionally publishing, it's a different beast. Indie publishing, I set my own parameters. I set my own time frame. I put it out when I want to. I contract with all my independent contractors for cover, editing, and so forth.
Right.
With traditional, I have a team behind me. Now, I don't control everything, but that means I also don't have to control everything. And that's a nice
Right.
change.
Nice. Okay. So, are they picking up any more of the books? Are you doing any sequels to this one?
At this point, there are no sequels. I do have another standalone book. I've sort of grown and matured in my writing, and sometimes my faith element changes a bit here. Whether it's in the first book, we had a full on conversion story, my first novel. I mean, it is Christian as Christian can get. My later books, I've taken out a bit of that, not to strip the faith element, but it becomes a secondary or more subtle element of the storytelling. The next book may have even less, and I don't know whether it's general market or Christian fiction yet. We'll see where it goes to. So if they'll take me, oh, I'd love to go with them again. Great
Nice.
experience, but we'll see where the best place to place that piece is. And so I've sort
Nice.
of grown with the writing and changed with it. I have authors that inspire me, and we'll see where the story goes.
Okay. And I assume it's on Amazon, and where else can people find it?
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Christian book. As well, we are going to get the Audible out soon. I have a great narrator who I know who's done about 40, 50 Kindle books already or Audible books already. And so that will be accessible in the near term future. So this is really exciting. Different venues are getting it, different medium and platforms are getting it. Our local county library is going to stock a few copies. And even some Barnes and Noble will do some in store sales, which is exciting too.
Good, great. And what type of feedback are you getting from readers?
They really like the story, and it's nice to see that people that have read it previously enjoy it, and they enjoy the growth in the writing. Some people that are new really like it. Say, "I've never read one of his books, but I'm going to read more." Probably one of my favorite ones was somebody that said, "When I read about the premise, I wasn't really sure. When I read the book, I was sold." The
Nice.
premise is a bit fantastical. I completely understand. Like you said before, it sounds like the fantasy job. But when you read about it, you realize it's not all it's cracked up to be. And people have bought into that. They really liked it. So I'm really pleased. I've had a lot of good sales. Amazon had me at the number 65 slot in Christian fiction in print sales one day. So I was playing around the top 100 slot for a little while there. So some sales have been good so far. We're going to try to do
Great,
some more marketing and spread that out more and try to increase sales there again too. And when the Audible
great.
comes out, even more people get a chance to get a hold of the book.
Right, right. What about your students? Have any of them read it and given you feedback?
They haven't yet, since it's been during the summer. It'll be
Okay.
very curious to see what they see when they come back here. When those who heard about it, they might pick it up or something. I try not to do too much promotion in the classroom because it sounds like I'm selling my own book in the middle of a class
Right.
on federalism. But I do like to let them know, hey, I write books. They have tended to enjoy them. I often will find a way to sneak in students' names as characters. It's always fun to do. Family members are pretty good. I did have one time where I had a friend request to be in the book. Like, sure. What do you want to be? I want to be a dead body. I'm like, okay. I changed his name a little bit, but it was clearly him. I said gangland hit. They never found all the body parts. He comes back at
Right.
me and he's all mad. I said, you said you wanted to be a dead body. You're in the book.
Yeah.
So I have a
There you
little
go.
fun there. And I like to do that where I honor people for various namings of things. You need a lot of character names anyways. You might as well throw in a few folks that are fun and friendly, and that will
Right.
appreciate it. And I
Right.
tend to get a lot of feedback. They say, "You write books?" I
Sorry.
do write books. It's something that I do. I'm not famous, but I'm trying to grow my brand and get some more readers, and that's fun.
Nice. Yeah. Well, you know what'll probably happen is you'll get some kid that'll find your book and read it. Everyone in school then will read it. So you'll either get a lot of kids like, "Oh my gosh, that was great," or you'll get them all like really razzing you like every class.
Yeah,
High
they
school.
razz me enough as it is. I can take more. I'm a high school teacher, but it'd be kind of
Yeah.
fun to see. You're mad at me. You paid $17 for the book. I'm okay with that. That's fine. You paid the 10, $12 on Audible or in Kindle format, $5 in Kindle. I still get money. Go ahead.
Right. Well, it's probably their parents, but
Yeah, either way. No,
right.
if they read it, they engaged it, they thought about it, and that's the most important part. That they are thinking about the ideas and they're having fun with it. And hopefully, the story is a little bit of fun for them too.
Yeah. And I was talking to another author who gets some letters every now and then. He writes horror comedy, and he wrote a couple YA like that. Most of them are definitely adult, and he gets feedback from teachers saying, I discovered your books and the kids eat them up. I said kids that I've never gotten to read. Will read your book and love it and ask for another one. She's like, thanks. So I think in schools sometimes we need to get away from the ones that have traditionally been. Let's read this book that none of you will like and none of you will remember. Let's. I think the goal should be more. Let's get kids to read and find some things they enjoy.
And I've liked to do that when I taught English. I was really big on that, and I brought in books like The Freedom Writer's Diary or Khaled Hosseini's The Kite Runner, which is controversial.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm down with that. And I would get them to try to engage this stuff that's not traditional in the curriculum. We would add it in and get students to kind of connect there. And they enjoy those things. They're real. They're tangible. I like The Great Gatsby, like everybody, other English teacher does too, or has feelings about it. I have thoughts about Hemingway and Steinbeck and Shakespeare and whatnot. But I like the other pieces too. I taught The Hunger Games just to teach us a simple story and talk about story elements in a fairly good way. It's
Yeah.
rather funny. In that book, it's first person and I'd never written first person before, and some of it's present tense, and all of it's present tense. And I thought I'll never write first person present tense. But my prologue and my epilogue are first person present tense. So sometimes you can play with that rule, and sometimes you can bend it. It's kind of fun to see what rules I can bend these days.
Right. Yeah. And that's something you can do whenever you feel like. And I think switching it up a little bit, especially first person, draws people in. So that's probably a
It
good thing.
does.
So, um, and besides the books you've written, what are some of your favorite books and authors that you like to read?
Oh, excellent. Thanks for asking that question here. Um, I like to read currently a lot of Davis Bunn. I am a fan of Charles Martin, who's fairly popular in the genre now as well. I pick up a Khaled Hosseini, again the Kite Runner reference. Kristen Hanna's The Nightingale. I loved. I just did. I'm growing more toward the literary fiction, the lyrical kind of writing. Some of the things like Fitzgerald, and who I adore, flaws and all. We all got them. So those are some of the people that I kind of pivot to. I'll pick up a good spy thriller just for a fun escapism read. I need some of those from time to time. But when I want to get inspired, I'm looking at people out there that are really writing things that are engaging. I'm trying to pick up my game a bit as a reader, and
Right.
also then hopefully that will trickle down and be infused in the writing as well.
Yeah, that's common advice. If you're not a reader, you can't really be much of a writer.
No,
So you should read, definitely.
I read a book recently that was just bad, and I kept reading for it to get better, and it didn't. It was formula, it was cliche, and I'm like saying to myself, "Oh my goodness, wow." And so I don't want to write like that. And some of my stuff, you can maybe predict where it's going. Hopefully not all of it, but I really want to kind of engage and bring it up a level. So I've got to bring up my game a level. I've got to bring up my skill set a level.
Yeah. Well, if it says anything, Stephen King reads daily. So, if he can read daily, anyone can read daily and write.
Oh yeah, and one of the things I love with him, his book 11/22/63. You read some of his other stuff, and it's fine, scary thing in the mist kind of concept. But and I, he's Stephen King. But 11/22/63 was just sort of mind blowing. It was really taking that history genre and alternative histories and bringing his thoughts to it, and I just sort of was really kind of blown away by that. Just as a reminder that authors who you think you know can do stuff like a John Grisham, who I love, has kind of ventured into much more not speculative in the speculative fiction, but more experimental stuff for him. And sometimes
Hmm.
he's got some really interesting ideas out there. I like that when you go beyond your comfort zone, what you get to see out there and what people will do for you. Uh, as far as read your books, but also what the writers will do as they go out there and where they will take you to, and that's exciting.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It doesn't always work out. Sometimes you just want that author to give you what you're used to and need. But it is nice sometimes to see some of the other things they do.
Right. I want that guaranteed thing. I want that piece there. It's going to be stable. What I'm looking for, but trying to read a lot of the fiction, sometimes even incorporating nonfiction with that uses narrative storytelling elements and techniques helps the writing too, and that's kind of exciting to see.
Right. Um, Dave, besides books and authors, do you have any local bookstores that you like to go to?
Golly, I am a fan of the local Barnes and Noble. I know I should be of the smaller sellers. Those have sadly disappeared mostly from our region.
Yeah.
I have threatened time and again I need to some point to go to the last bookstore in LA. And it's a fancy place out there, and they've got all sorts of great little historical pieces there. Someday I want to go to the Bodleian, in England, of course, because who doesn't want to go to the famous British library system? But any local place where I can go and see authors out there, and more than just the Amazon click and look at, but to look at books there and kind of be around them, that smell, that sense, the idea of experimenting, looking at a new author, that's kind of fun. I don't do it enough. We all need to do more of it. And the local
Yeah.
library, I'm telling you, I am conservative with my money, and a local library, I'm happy to look it up and get it there. That's why I like to donate my books to the library to make sure that people have that resource too.
Right.
I've gotten videos and books throughout the years through the library system, saved a good deal of money, enjoyed a book for a time, and let someone else do it. Ben Franklin's best idea, if you ask me.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a big proponent of books or libraries and going there to get books, get whatever they offer. Some of the programs they have there, I always will tell people they're like, I don't know what to do with my kids. Well, take them to the library.
Oh
Start them
yeah,
out young at the library. They love it when they're little.
my niece, who's now 6, got her first library card at 3 or 4. We took her there, got her a library card, and she was checking out books there. And that love for books is still there, and
Yeah.
hopefully will continue.
Yeah, and yeah, when parents go, I can't get them to read. I don't know what to do. Well, considering that you bought them an Xbox before you got them a library card, there's part of the problem. But that's
Yeah,
my opinion.
they give into the technology is an easy out at times, and I get that it can be fun too. But you go to the library, and the librarian knows what she or he is talking about. The ones that are
Yeah,
good, you can recommend a good book for your kid or some ideas here. They deal with books all day long.
right.
So that expert advice there might not be a bad way to go from your local expert, who we pay good tax dollars for.
Agreed. Yep. All right. Well, before we go for this first part and move on to the second part, anyone listening, tell them why they should go buy your book.
Thank you so much. Why should you go pick up Fool's Luck? If you're looking for a good summer read, this is it. It's a nice book. It's not 400 pages. It's about 280, I think it is here. So it's a nice, good summer read. It's got compelling characters. It takes the fanciful story of a guy running for president and makes it relatable and connected to our daily lives here. We're talking about family. We're talking about politics. We're kind of weaving it together. Sarcasm is my personal first language. I speak sarcasm better than anything else. My characters tend to as well. You will chuckle in this book if you like a good bit of sarcasm and humor. But it's real as well. There are a lot of different elements going together here. Different audiences can enjoy it. And it's just a good, fun read here. If you're sick of politics as it is, think about politics as it could be. Pick up Fool's Luck.
Nice. There you go. There's a sales pitch. All right. Well, Dave, it's been great talking to you. And we're going to come back in a moment and talk about part B. And we're going to talk about writing a book for 15 years.
Awesome. Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Thank you for listening to Discovered Wordsmiths. Come back next week and listen to another author discuss the road they've traveled, and maybe, sometime in the near future, it might be you.